first woman president. Oh, it's all orchestrated and you're falling into the brainwashed trap. The entire thing is fake. It's a clown and pony show. It's a circus act. And you're in the audience, you bought a ticket and you're cheering. When you put your energy into that timeline, then you are keeping that old timeline alive, that old matrix, that old system of enslavement. And just because one of them doesn't seem to be an evil rapist, misogynist who wants to take all of women's rights away, and that's the lesser of the two evils, she still comes from the same exact system that is all rigged and all fake. And so it's the system of enslavement. That is the system that they come from. That's why those are the two quote unquote choices that you have to choose from, that enslaves the American people, both of them. You are God incarnated for the love of Christ. We all are. We can come together and say, enough is enough is enough is enough. Stop trying to convince the system of enslavement to stop enslaving you. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Hello, magnificent, beautiful, magical, mystical beings and divine souls who tuned in to listen to this episode of Masters of Self University podcast. I am your host for this episode, Rachel Fiori. Welcome and thank you for tuning in. Let's dive in and talk about the United States presidential election and your participation in self-enslavement and what this means. I want you to understand, as powerful, powerful divine creator beings, because that's what you are. You are all powerful divine creator beings. Every human, every being that exists on this planet is a fractal of the source creator of all that is. You are a fractal of that. You're a part of that. You're an extension of that. So you are literally, you are God incarnated. Every being is. Every being is. And if you can remember that or allow that to sink in a little bit more deeply into your soul understanding, not your mind, not your intellectual understanding, screw that, get out of your mind, drop into your heart. Let that sink in a little bit more deeply, if you're willing, to your soul understanding. Then you can understand how incredibly powerful you actually are. You are incredibly powerful. And when we unite together, it goes back to that saying, when two or more unite in my name. All that means is when two or more of us get together, connect in a divine way, remembering we are connecting as and from the way of connection. The way of connection. That universal way of oneness. This is a frequency that we can become as we become more and more elevated, more and more enlightened. When we come together as the way of connection, that means that we are connecting as divinity, from divinity, because that's what we are, to other divine souls. When we come together and unite in that way, we can powerfully transform anything that we want to transform that is of evil and darkness, that the people that enslave us, that kind of thing, they're only enslave us because we allow them to. That's the truth. It's not a truth we want to necessarily look at, but I think enough of us are waking up across the world in order to understand and see the power that we actually hold. The whole purpose of enslaving you is to dumb you down and keep you stupid, to keep you ignorant, to keep you brainwashed and acting like puppets while they're pulling the puppet strings. I mean, that's the whole point of all of this. Because if you're enslaved, they can siphon your energy and they can steal your money, and you're consenting to all of it, even though you don't realize how you're consenting to all of it. But you are, we all are, because that's part of the brainwashing and the conditioning that, oh, I have to pay my taxes. Instead of realizing that taxes are a choice and they trick you into paying them. And then they, come after you and do crazy things if you don't. And they treat you like a villain if you don't. Well, if we lived in a society that functioned with leaders that functioned from oneness consciousness, maybe if we still lived in a monetary system, maybe we would still pay taxes. Maybe we would still have a percentage that went to that, but it would come from the way of integrity, the way of truth, the way of trust, the way of responsibility. None of this stealing from you to, put your money in my pockets. That doesn't exist when you function as the way of truth, as the way of integrity, as the way of purity. Do you understand that if we become a higher level of consciousness, we become the vibrational frequencies of oneness consciousness, you don't fuck around with other people. You don't abuse them. You don't use them. You don't manipulate them. You don't lie to them. You don't steal them. You don't treat them as inferior. That no longer exists. That ceases to exist. Okay, that's important to understand that. So you can have certain things like, hey, we should all pay, a percentage, maybe 15% of what we earn in order to pay for all of the community things that we all benefit from. Like, that makes sense. There's nothing wrong with that. And you see, hopefully, you can see the difference of if you're driving on the roadways and the roads need to be fixed. Well, who's paying for that? Well, all of us that drive on roadways should be chipping in together collectively, taking care of what needs to be taken care of. So from that standpoint, there's nothing wrong with coming up with a system, and even a monetary system. We all like to say that it's, money is evil. Money is the problem. No, it fucking isn't. It's the people in charge running the show, creating things like capitalism that are greed and spiteful and liars and conniving and manipulators, and how greedy and the actual materialization of this corrupt system, bringing it to a manifested state and then being able to maintain it, to sustain it. You're materializing a state that is an evil, corrupt, awful system of enslavement so that certain people benefit, right? So we understand that. If you listen to me, you probably already know this and understand this. I'm laying that as the foundation for what I'm about to offer you in this episode. If you understand that, then you can start to evolve a little more. It's like, being in first grade, and now we've passed first grade, and then we want to get to second, third, fourth. We need to keep going to understand how we keep the system in place. Okay. Now, I've talked about this a little bit before, but I want you to understand I'm going to get very specific about the presidential election in the United States. Okay. So our participation, our consent, even though you don't realize you're consenting, but that's part of the trickery. That's part of the brainwashing. That's part of the conditioning to brainwash you to think that you are inferior to those who are the leaders of our country or the leaders of the world. That doesn't even make any sense when you come from a position of oneness consciousness. Leaders are supposed to be the most elevated divine beings, and they're supposed to be teachers because they're supposed to guide you and teach you how to become what they've already achieved. It isn't, I'm superior to you because I function at this level. This is, hey, I've achieved this. This makes me a great teacher. I'm a great leader. And I'm leading you back to the divinity inside of yourself so that you can achieve what I have already achieved. That is the way of selfless service. That is the way of responsibility, the first way of oneness. that the more elevated you become, the more responsible for you are for offering that wisdom so that other people can achieve it too if they so choose. That's what it means to live from a place of oneness consciousness. Okay. So, as a leader or as a teacher, whoever I am, the leader, the teacher, I am not superior to you. I may have more wisdom. I may be more elevated than you. Yeah. Aren't you more elevated than a second grader? Don't you know more? Don't you have more wisdom and more life experience? Aren't you more mature? Hopefully. Not everyone, but you know, do you understand that analogy? And so if you understand it from a perspective of oneness, then the leaders that you look up to, it doesn't mean you blindly follow. That's disempowerment, and that's what religions do to enslave you. So stop blindly following people. Listen, learn, open your hearts, feel into what's being offered and guided. Feel what is being taught to you or offered to you. Okay. And you can't discern the difference, by the way. You can't discern the difference between manipulation and bullshit and brainwashing versus divinity and actual universal truth when you have yet to connect to your own divine internal power. If you're still looking outside of you for some savior or some God outside of you, and you're looking at yourself like you're inferior and you're a little child compared to that being or that entity, that divinity, that God, that whatever, then that's part of the problem. You're too brainwashed to gain the level of discernment needed, because discernment comes from your ability, your accuracy in connecting to your own divinity, the God within yourself. That connecting to your soul and having that be your number one guiding light while you're here on this planet, that is critical. And any powerful leader, true leader, not dark, false, fake, I want to, bullshit you and convince you to believe me, trick you into believing me so that you'll follow me and pay for me and I can make money off you, bullshit. Any true, authentic leader is always going to guide you back to your internal power. They are going to teach you the laws of the universe, not just to benefit yourself, to benefit everyone. That's oneness. Because when you heal, when you elevate, when you become more empowered and you realize the light comes from within you, you are the light. You become the wisdom. You become the integrity. You become the selfless service. You become harmlessness and gentleness. You become compassion. You become the way of responsibility. You become the way of equality. When you become energetically, you're vibrating at the frequencies of just every way of oneness, trust, truth. Those are the people you want leading you, because they can teach you how to come back to yourself, because the innate truth of what you actually are those things as well. Okay. We just get, knocked around and conditioned and brainwashed a hell of a lot while we're here. And we completely forget who and what we are. We become very disconnected to our divinity and what we are. And then we dumbly, blindly follow leaders that are not true leaders. They're evil. They're demonic, even, you could say. They're horrible fucking people. And it's only humans that would actually follow a psychopath. It's only humans that would follow a human that is not qualified as an actual leader, a human that is dysfunctional, that is unhealthy, that is mentally ill, a human that is a 34-time convicted felon and a rapist and an adulterer who cheats on his pregnant wife with porn stars and then pays them off and gives them hush money. What the fuck? That lets you know the level of consciousness of a large population of people when you actually look to a misogynistic, narcissistic psychopath who has the emotional IQ of about a 2.5-year-old, if that, as a leader. I mean, that says everything we need to know about the people following him. And on the bigger picture, zoom out. If you don't know by now, the entire government, it's all fake. It's all orchestrated. There is no choice here. So now we're getting to what the real topic is. The US, the presidential election, the United States election, and your participation in self-enslavement. Here's the bottom line. I don't care what, I mean, the one option that they're throwing in front of you, like you only have two. I mean, come on. Like there's only two people running for president. This lets you know how orchestrated it is. That it costs millions of dollars to run for that doesn't even make any sense. It should be, are you qualified to lead other people? Are you qualified to lead other people? What level of consciousness are you? Not, I'm here to convince you or win your votes. That you're disqualified, in my opinion. If that's all you're doing is trying to trick people into voting for you, stop trying to trick people to vote for you. Show who you are, your level of consciousness, your level of divine power, what you stand for. There's nothing to hide, right? Like all those secret documents that you stole from the White House. Now, you think there's choice here. There isn't, because there are many choices of people running for president right now. I happen to be one of them. Again, not that you would ever know that, because of our current system that's still in place. They put two people in front of you. Our government is telling you, here are your two choices. People, they're not choices. You don't have a choice. It's already decided. So when you have one monster that's a fucking embarrassment, that is what we put out for the rest of the world, not just this country, but for the whole world to see, we're willing to be led by a psychopath. I mean, it's humiliating. It is an embarrassment. And then our other choice, what they suddenly flipped on us. Do you understand that it's orchestrated? And for some of you to think, well, lesser of the two evils, you're still contributing to self-enslavement when you're willing to vote and participate in and follow what is going on in all aspects of this election. When you think, well, but those are the two choices that they're giving us, so we need to pick one. And at least she isn't going to take women's rights away. And at least she will be the first, woman president. Oh, look, we're making history here. The first woman president. Oh, it's all orchestrated and you're falling into the brainwashed trap. Okay. The entire thing is fake. It's a clown and pony show. It's a circus act. And you're in the audience. You bought a ticket and you're cheering. When you put your energy into that timeline, then you are keeping that old timeline alive, that old matrix, that old system of enslavement. I don't care if I see nothing but just and be careful what I say here. No, I'm not going to be careful what I say. Why the fuck would I do that? I never have before. I don't want the video to be taken down. I want you to actually be able to listen to this. When I say I'm be careful, I'm trying not to, put too many red flags out so that this gets taken down. The destruction, war, violence, I see that, and I've seen it for a long time with the choice that is the narcissistic, rapist, fucking psychopath that we embarrassingly put, like that's a leader of this country. And the other fake pretend choice that they put in front of us, you understand you've been duped there as well. Because These are not enlightened, awakened beings at all. And just because one of them doesn't seem to be, you know, an evil rapist, misogynist who wants to take all of women's rights away, and that's the lesser of the two evils, she still comes from the same exact system that is all rigged and all fake. And so it's the system of enslavement. That is the system that they come from. That's why those are the two quote unquote choices that you have to choose from. Do you understand that? They are both coming from a system of enslavement that enslaves the American people, both of them. And so when you participate in this election, when you vote for one of those two clowns, when you put your energy there, when you watch everything about them on social media, when you watch things on the news, every person that puts more and more energy to that timeline, it means you are putting your energy, your attention into a system that enslaves us, and you're keeping the system of enslavement alive, which means you are self-enslaving. You are enslaving yourself. You are keeping all of us enslaved by focusing on and putting your attention onto this presidential election, like we shouldn't be putting our attention into forming a completely new government altogether and having completely new leaders altogether. You are God incarnated for the love of Christ. We all are. We can come together and say, enough is enough is enough is enough. Stop trying to convince the system of enslavement to stop enslaving you. One leader put in power, it's fake, false power. The president isn't the one running the show. Have you not learned this by now? That person doesn't have power. They're a puppet. They play the role that those behind the scenes tell them they have to play. You're this character and you're this character. We'll make you extremely opposite and opposing of one another so we can continue to trick the American people. And you're putting your attention there. That's where you're putting your attention, which means you're keeping the system of enslavement alive, which means you're willingly consenting to being enslaved. You are consenting to being enslaved when all of your attention goes to what that circus act is. Do you understand that and a circus is a great example, actually. It's a great analogy. Because when people started to realize that circus animals are completely abused and neglected and enslaved, and people started to realize, oh my God, I don't want to participate in anything that treats animals like that. The power is in the people and what you're willing to pay for, buy into, put your attention. So if you pay for the tickets, if you buy the tickets and attend the circus, and you're clapping like stupid dumb idiots because, oh my God, that animal, look at what that tiger does, look at the elephant, instead of realizing it is a system of enslavement, of abuse and torture of sentient beings who should be set free. The way to free those animals is to spread the word, educate, 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 and never fucking attend a circus ever again. And yet, when it comes to our own US government, you don't realize you're watching a fucking circus? It's a circus that you keep buying tickets and attending the show. You keep buying tickets. Guess what would happen if nobody in this country voted? If nobody fucking voted, what would we do then? We would see the truth that the entire thing is rigged and they've already picked the president anyway. Your vote doesn't do jack shit. You're not actually voting. Do you understand our system? The whole thing is fake. They put a system in place to make you think your vote and your choice matters. None of it means anything. They're doing what they want to do anyway. They have the entire time. Now people are starting to wake up to the truth that, oh my God, we go show up to polls, we cast a vote, and the vote doesn't even mean anything or do anything. All of this is fake. And all they need to do is create distractions. They create some chaos. They make sure polarization, duality continues. So one candidate looks like this and they're so extremely opposite. The other candidate looks like that. And then everybody falls for it because they're so opposing. And you can't imagine having that one if you're on this team. And if you're on the other team, oh my God, that's the death of us. And you keep it all alive by paying attention to it and putting your energy into it, instead of saying, oh, for the love of God, enough is enough with these psychopaths in this so-called government that have all this power and so-called rule the fucking world. Why are we allowing it to continue? Notice my choice of words there. Why are we allowing it to continue? Because we're the ones that have the power. They have zero power if we decide that they no longer have any power and any hold over us. That's our decision. Free will choice, people. Your participation in any way, shape, or form in this election, you are choosing to keep a system of enslavement alive. I think that it's going to be, chaos. I think there's going to be just a volcanic eruption after this election. And that's not a negative or a bad thing. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I think that it's going to be impossible to continue to allow a system of enslavement to continue to do what it does. And they pick the two people, and the decision is already made, by the way. If you don't know this by now, come on. Wake up. They've already chosen who is going to be president. They just do all this crap and, try to convince you with debates and all these things that it's a real system and you actually have a choice and you need to vote. The whole thing is ridiculous. And how ridiculous to participate in it. How ridiculous to participate in it. So the more you participate in it, the more you put your attention there, the more you're keeping that system alive energetically. They need us to keep the system alive. It doesn't work if we don't consent to it. So you can say, I don't consent to this anymore. That's the first step. I don't consent to this. I don't consent to being enslaved. I don't consent to being treated the way I'm treated. I don't consent to taxes completely fucking robbing me blind. I don't consent to the housing crisis. I don't consent to the homelessness crisis. I don't consent to the economy crashing. I don't consent. I don't participate in this anymore. And instead of waiting, because here's where religion comes in. I don't care if you're not religious. Here's where that brainwashing intertwines with all of this. Waiting for a savior to come and fix everything for you, instead of you rising up, healing, elevating your level of consciousness, healing all of your wounds of inferiority, powerlessness, etc., fear. Oh my God, heal the fear. It's an energetic frequency. You can just alchemize it. That's what you can do with it. You can alchemize it and set yourself free and not actually live in fear of anything or anyone. You can connect to your divine power. See, if you start doing that, that system falls. That's how we dismantle it. We dismantle it energetically. We dismantle it by coming together and saying, I demand new leaders step up, leaders that are connected to their divine power, leaders who know how to teach, leaders who know how to guide us so that we can become powerful leaders as well. And if we're not willing to come together and actually take action and say, we're forming our own new government. I mean, imagine that. Form our own government. We don't need to continue to listen to a government that doesn't work for the people. They work for us, haven't for a long time. They are supposed to be working for us. Do you understand? We are the CEOs. They are the ones supposed to be working for us on our behalf. We obviously know they don't do that. They're paid by big pharma and big corporations and all of the corruption and all the things that go on. So a lot more people are aware of this kind of stuff. And yet, what are you actually doing about it? What are you actually doing about it? Who's coming together to say, I want to form a new government for this country, one that is of the universal ways of oneness? Can you imagine a government that function at the frequency of the way of responsibility, the way of truth, the way of presence and connection, compassion, harmlessness and gentleness, equality? What? Equality? What an insane concept. Trust, honoring of all people, selfless service, unconditional love. Can you imagine a government in this country functioning as the way of humility? How about purity? How about wisdom? That sure as fuck is lacking. How about the way of harmony? I mean, there are 20 universal ways of oneness. We can become those ways. We can elevate and activate our superhuman powers that we all have inside of us because we're God incarnated. And all of that wisdom is kept from the general public, all of it, on purpose, of course, so that you never wake up to what you actually are. Because yes, we need some degree of governing. There are billions of people on the goddamn planet, and there are billions upon billions more of sentient beings, and we're all here to share this beautiful planet together. So of course we need structure and governing, but not in the old definition. Structure and governing and rules helps keep people safe, and it helps keep chaos from reigning and ruling, right? Our current definition of that, of government and leaders and world leaders, they create chaos to scare you into submission and following orders that make no sense and following rules that do nothing but enslave you and disempower you. Versus, like, let me give you one simple example. It's the simplest example in the world. Having traffic lights and crosswalks where you take turns and you wait, you become the way of patience to the cars are driving by, I can't cross the street. And if 1 million people are crossing a street, anywhere they want to cross the street, so many more people would get hit by cars, harmed, hurt, even killed. A simple example of why do we have traffic lights and why do we have crosswalks? So now you're right of way, cross the street safely, no car will hit you. All cars know they need to stop and give pedestrians the right of way when you cross that crosswalk. There at a red light, you have the sign that says, okay, you can walk, pedestrians walk across the street. Think about that. I mean, really, I'm using a simple and silly example on purpose, very intentionally. Think about that. If you live in a busy city, there's no way people wouldn't be killed every damn week if we didn't have some sort of order. So order and structure, when offered in a divine, loving way, is absolutely beneficial for everybody. But rigidity and enslavement and tricking you into following rules blindly is a very different topic. And that's what we need to dissolve in our government. We can't dissolve it in the current government. It doesn't exist there. What we need to do is create and form a new one. So are you willing to put your time, energy, effort, your attention, your intention on creating a completely new government with completely new elevated people that you know are here to help the entire planet? That's up to you. Where is your intention going? Where is your attention going? And what are you willing to put your attention and intention towards? Where is your focused attention going? If it's on the old system, you're keeping the old system alive. You're keeping it alive. You are keeping enslavement alive. Where is your focused attention going? Why don't you focus on participating in, following, joining the people who are here to lead us into a new earth a new way of being. The old way is crumbling. It doesn't work. We've proven this for centuries now. A new way of living, a new way of, I hate the word governing, but I'm going to stay with it for now. A new way of governing, a new way of leading. We need global leaders who are awakened, powerful beings. So who are they? And are you willing to put your attention and intention into those types of people while all these other psychopaths, religious leaders, government leaders, other world leaders, world organizations are crumbling? The more you focus on them, the longer they stay alive. Take your energy back. Make the choice. Completely remove your energy. That means your focused attention on any of it. And instead, turn your back on them and focus on the new leaders of a new earth, the new leaders of a new world where we want nothing but harmony. We want nothing but harmlessness and gentleness. We want nothing but integrity. And for the people who want that, who aren't willing to put the work in, the self-work in, they're full of shit, and they're just like the people of the old world. So be careful. If they don't do the work on themselves, they're a false leader just like the old ones. They just look different, or they look a little more spiritual, or they talk or speak or they act a little more spiritual. Don't be fooled by false leaders anymore. Don't be fooled by them. So where are you going to put your intentions? Where are you going to place your attention? That's all of your energy. Join, create, come together. We all can come together and simply create a new way of living, a new way of governing, a new way of everything, new way of living in communities and helping each other. That's what we're all about. That's what I'm all about. So start to pay more attention of people who are creating those things and who are the leaders rising up that can lead us into that direction, because that's who we should be supporting. The ridiculous clowns that are put in front of your faces, if you're supporting any of it, you're supporting the system of enslavement, which means you're contributing to your own self-enslavement. Let that sink in. And let's rise up and be better than that. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with anybody who you think this could benefit. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.